Hello and welcome to another video with me, Balthelion. So today we're going to be discussing the recent news that came out yesterday, Tuesday the 4th of September, which is that a new games developer is going to be producing a new Lord of the Rings MMO, which is going to be free to play, and it's going to be based on the Lord of the Rings property, basically. Not dealing necessarily with the Lord of the Rings storyline itself, but of other events inside Middle-earth. So this came pretty much as a surprise to everyone. Everyone's kind of been picking up the news and running with it and kind of getting a bit excited and wondering what it's going to be about, because no one's actually said specifically what it's going to be about. So all we've got to go on at the minute is the press release that's been issued by the company that's going to be involved with this. How this works is there is a Chinese, or I think it's based in Hong Kong, a company called Leyou, if you pronounce it like that. And they're the parent company. They own a subsidiary company called Athlon Games. And Athlon Games has been tasked with coming up with this new game. So it's probably going to be a few years away yet before it actually comes to fruition. But this is the press release on the screen now, which is has been issued by the parent company. So let's just read through that and then let's break it down and have a look at who all these different people are. So on the screen now we have Athlon Games, partners with Middle-earth Enterprises, so they're the people that own the rights essentially to anything Middle-earth based. Athlon Games will apply its live services expertise and top Western development to create an engrossing new AAA experience. I don't know why they're capitalising every word in this sentence. An engrossing new AAA experience for one of the world's most powerful IPs. So they're setting their sights higher that they want to do like a really top AAA game. So this is issued from the Los Angeles office of Athlon Games. September 4th, 2018. Today, Athlon Games, a global publisher, and bear in mind as well, underline the word publisher, not developer, publisher, which is also mentioned at the top, that they're going to publish a multi-year online game based on the Lord of the Rings. We'll come back to that in a minute. So, a long-term licensing agreement with Middle-earth Enterprises to develop and publish a video game based on the Lord of the Rings. Athlon Games is working with a partner developer, again, bear that in mind, to create an online game set in the world of Middle-earth at a time long before the events of the Lord of the Rings, exploring lands, people and creatures never seen before by fans of the Tolkien universe, which is intriguing. Now, lands, people and creatures never seen before by fans of the Tolkien universe, are they implying it's going to be completely different to what people have now in the Lord of the Rings Online, which is dealing with pretty much with everything in Middle-earth? So unless they really went far back into the Second Age and Balthelion before everything got flooded out that way, Numenor, that kind of stuff, or really far into the east, but then you're kind of missing all the interesting stuff. You're not really going to have the elves or the hobbits and that kind of stuff. I think it's more likely that long is going to be long in terms of our years. So we might consider, say, 50 years to be a long time, but in the entire history of Middle-earth, that's not very long. So I suspect it's probably more those kind of timelines. So probably going to be something set maybe during either the Hobbit era or potentially between the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings events, which is interesting because obviously Amazon is developing a new TV series which is kind of allegedly going to be to do with young Aragorn and his formative years. So that would be set as well, kind of like Hobbit era, depending on how long ago they're going to do that. Because Aragorn obviously ages slower than normal men. He's in the region of about 80, I think it was, during the War of the Ring. So going back 60 years to when he was 20, that is about the era of the Hobbit. So carrying on then, it is a singular opportunity to work closely with Middle-earth Enterprises to create a completely new experience for fans of the landmark fantasy world of J.R.R. Tolkien, and we are excited about the resurgence of interest in the Lord of the Rings IP. I don't know why all of a sudden it's a resurgent interest. Maybe one could have said there's a resurgent interest at the time of the Hobbit movies or something, but there's nothing really that's happened recently besides Middle-earth Shadow of War coming out, which is interesting because one of the people that works for this company is kind of involved with that as well. So Dave Miller, president of Athlon Games. It might have been that chap. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. This, along with several other major properties Athlon is working with, will help us to further our goal of creating AAA cooperative console and PC game experiences that gamers will want to play for years to come. Now, they haven't necessarily said if console play is going to be involved in this MMO, which could be interesting and a bit of a more unique selling point, because obviously the Lord of the Rings Online is purely PC based. We're extremely pleased to work with Athlon Games to create a new immersive game experience exploring epic regions in Middle-earth, so in Middle-earth proper, not say in the Undying Lands or in the Far East of the lands and so on and so forth, during the years leading to the events of the Lord of the Rings. So again, it makes it seem like it's a Lord of the Rings prequel, not something in the distant past. Said Frederica Drotos, if I pronounced that right, Chief Brand and Licensing Officer at Middle-earth Enterprises. Athlon's game will allow millions of Middle-earth fans throughout the world a unique opportunity for fellowship and epic exploration. Athlon Games and its parent company, Leyou Technologies Holdings Limited, which also owns Digital Extremes and Splash Damage, and again we're going to be looking at that in a bit more detail, is marrying its deep expertise with free-to-play game design and service with Western development and strong IP to create top-quality console and PC games that have global appeal. We believe in Athlon Games' model to collaborate closely with Western developers to implement successful live services, while also giving its partners the autonomy they need to develop outstanding game experiences, says Alex Zhu, again if I pronounce that correctly, CEO of Leyou Technologies Holdings Limited. At Leyou, we have seen great success implementing this strategy with other titles such as Warframe, which is the game that they're ultimately best known for, specifically Leyou that is. Now we can expand our footprint in the West with Athlon Games. Los Angeles-based Athlon Games is a newly formed publisher headed up by industry veteran Dave Miller, formerly of Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. So he oversaw, among other things, Shadow of War. Codemasters and NBC Universal. For more on Athlon Games, visit Athlon Games, blah, 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 blah. And then, as usual with press releases, you just have these little paragraphs where it's, about the various companies that are mentioned inside the press release. So probably most of you are probably thinking, who are these guys? Who are Leyou? Because you probably never would have heard of them. I definitely didn't hear of them before. So if we have a look, so their Wikipedia page is obviously very small. But Leyou is a global video game holding company focused on free-to-play console and PC gaming. Leyou, which originally operated as a chicken supplier, yes, they were purely involved in the sale of chicken meat, and now they're working in video games. Go figure. So they now have three holdings: Digital Extremes, Splash Damage, and Athlon Games. Okay, so they've got a brief overview that's mentioned in their Wikipedia article. That in 2015 they basically become a part owner of Digital Extremes, and then later in 2016 they bought those guys out and they now own them. They then went on also in 2016 to buy the games developer Splash Damage, which is owned through one of their own other companies, Radius Maxima, because company ownings is a complicated business. So they own those two studios. They've also invested $10 million in another developer, Certain Affinity, to develop original games in 2017. Okay, they don't own Certain Affinity, but they've just spent some money on those guys. Now, I don't think that they're going to be related to this MMO. But you saw in the article that they were, if we go back to it, where was the line I'm looking for? That Aflon was going to collaborate with one of their partners. There we go. Athlon Games is working with a partner developer. There's a key line here. Athlon is predominantly described as a publisher. However, if you were to look at their website, they do describe themselves as a global developer and publisher of free-to-play games. So allegedly they can develop their own stuff, but their focus is predominantly to be a publisher, and they are intended to publish essentially the other games of the development wings of Leyou as a company. So any games made by Digital Extremes or Splash Damage. Now, I've heard rumours, or at least now that this has actually come out that they're working on a Lord of the Rings MMO, rumours that Digital Extremes were supposed to be working on maybe some sort of MMO. So I'm not sure if they're going to be the one that's dealing with it, or whether it could be Splash Damage. But we probably should also have a look at some of the history of these guys as well. So Splash Damage, as you can see, this is the games that they have worked on over the years, and you'll see that all of these pretty much are, first-person shootery kind of stuff. So, like notably, Wolfenstein, Doom 3, Gears of War 4. So they've got a fair bit of first-person shooter or third-person shooter experience. So they're mainly shooters. Batman Arkham Origins as well, but not MMO-based experience. And they are an award-winning company. As you can see, there's some of the awards they've won there. Whereas Digital Extremes have got a bit more of a history. So again, they predominantly have worked on loads of shooters in the past. So like the original Unreal and Unreal Tournament games up until Unreal Tournament 2004, after which it was purely Epic Games working on those. Most notably Warframe. That's the one that always keeps getting referenced. So that's kind of like Leyou's kind of like big game. If you've never heard of that, it's another shooter game, but it is a free-to-play game. It's available on Steam. So it funds itself with microtransactions and that, but it is quite highly rated. People do seem to like that. But again, there's not necessarily any MMO experience in this area. So neither of these two developers have really worked on anything. But it remains to be seen which of these is going to be partnering with Athlon Games, because it should be one of the two that is working with Leyou. But yeah, it's just interesting as well, like reading up on some of the history of this. So like Splash Damage was originally sold to Leyou originally when it was actually I think it had a different name that I read in one of these articles. But it's interesting that it's someone who owns a chicken meat business and suddenly decides it wants to get involved with video games. So Leyou really is more like an investment capital business at this point. I think their chicken business hangs underneath there as well sometimes, somewhere underneath there. But yeah, it's interesting, reading about the acquisitions, and the people that will be publishing the games, Athlon Games. They were only created in May of this year. So they're incorporated. They're based in California. I think is it Leyou or Aflon also has offices in London and somewhere else. Can't remember exactly. But they've got a couple of offices around the world. So it's going to be a few years for these guys to get up to speed running it. But it seems like Aflon is going to be functioning in the role purely as publisher, whereas one of these other subsidiaries are going to be the actual developer of it. But as I said, I don't think it's going to be certain Affinity that they've put 10 million into. It's not clear what that 10 million is for. But they're not owned by Leyou, at least that I can find. But these guys, they've worked on, again, a lot of shooters. Notably like a load of stuff in the Halo universe. Bit of work at helping out on Left 4 Dead, Call of Duty. So again, all three of these developers are predominantly shooter based. That's not to say that they can't make a good MMO, but it'd be interesting to see how they make a good MMO. Maybe they'll they'll use a lot of their backgrounds in creating shooter games to make something a bit more action oriented, or they might introduce some new things to the MMO world, rather than being just a repeat of same old MMO tropes. Maybe that they might innovate some new features, but it remains to be seen, really. I mean, I hope they take their time with it and do the best they can, but I suppose we'll just have to watch this space, really, and see whatever these guys come up with. So let me know in the comments anyway what you guys think. Are you excited by the prospect of another Lord of the Rings MMO? Are you worried that it might compete for the same audience share that the Lord of the Rings Online has? Are you worried that it could suck away some of the players and cause Lord of the Rings Online to become unprofitable, which could potentially lead to it being shut down? Do you see it as a successor to the Lord of the Rings Online, even though it's made by a different company? I'll be interested to hear you guys' thoughts, so let me know in the comments. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe. If you've enjoyed it, leave a comment. But that's all for now, so I will see you guys next time.